welcome. Today, we're going back in time, way back, to a story that has echoed through the ages. A story of courage against overwhelming odds. A story of sacrifice that shaped the very idea of what it means to be brave. We're talking about the Battle of Thermopylae and the legendary stand of the 300 Spartans. You might have heard the stories, maybe seen the movies, but beneath the myth lies a powerful truth about dedication, duty, and the price of freedom. This wasn't just a battle, it was a moment that defined a civilization. Imagine ancient Greece, nearly 2,500 years ago. City-states, independent and often at odds, dotted the landscape. But a massive threat was looming from the east, the Persian Empire. A vast and powerful force, determined to expand its reach into Europe. In 480 BC, the Persian king Xerxes I launched a massive invasion. His army, said to number in the hundreds of thousands, marched towards Greece. The Greek city-states knew they had to unite to have any chance of survival. A strategic location was chosen to make a stand, Thermopylae. The name itself means hot gates, a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea. It was a bottleneck, a place where a smaller force could potentially hold back a much larger one. The man chosen to lead this critical defense was King Leonidas of Sparta, a tough, experienced warrior respected by all. But this mission was shadowed by a heavy prophecy. Leonidas had consulted the oracle at Delphi, the most sacred source of wisdom in the ancient Greek world. The prophecy was chilling: either Sparta would be destroyed or it would lose one of its kings. Leonidas understood what this meant. He knew he was likely marching to his death, but he also knew his duty. He chose to go, not with the full Spartan army, because a religious festival was underway, but with his personal bodyguard of 300 men. These weren't just any soldiers, they were all fathers, men who had sons to carry on their family lines. A conscious choice, ensuring Sparta's future even as they faced their end. Now, it's important to remember, it wasn't just 300 Spartans. Leonidas and his men were joined by several thousand other Greeks from different city-states, Thespians, Thebans, and others. A small but determined alliance. As they marched to the hot gates, the mood must have been heavy. They saw the Persian army's advance scouts. They understood the sheer scale of what they were up against. But they didn't turn back. They were there to hold the line, to buy precious time for the rest of Greece to prepare for the invasion. When the battle began, the Greek strategy proved brilliant. The narrow pass of Thermopylae was the perfect choke point. The Persians, despite their numbers, couldn't bring their full might to bear. The Greeks stood shoulder to shoulder, their large shields forming an interlocking wall of bronze. The phalanx. Their long spears kept the enemy at a distance. For 2 days, King Xerxes threw wave after wave of his soldiers at the Greek line. And for 2 days, they were repelled with heavy Persian losses. Xerxes even sent in his elite troops, his personal guard known as the Immortals. But they too failed to break the Greek resolve. The pass was becoming a graveyard for the Persian army. Xerxes, watching from a nearby hill, was said to have leapt from his throne in fury and frustration. It seemed the impossible was happening. But then, everything changed. A local man, a Greek named Ephialtes, saw an opportunity for personal gain. He went to the Persian king and told him of a hidden path, a secret trail that went around the mountains and would come out behind the Greek defenders. This was the moment the battle was truly lost. Once Xerxes knew about the path, he could encircle the Greeks, making their defensive position useless. The betrayal sealed their fate. Greek scouts soon reported the terrible news. The Persians were on the path. They would be surrounded by morning. Leonidas knew what he had to do. There was no hope of victory now, only of legacy. He called a council of war and made a decision. He dismissed the bulk of the Greek forces, ordering them to retreat and warn the other cities. Their fight was over. Their lives could be saved to fight another day. But he and his 300 Spartans would stay. They were bound by Spartan law and by honor never to retreat. They were joined by about 700 Thespians, who bravely chose to share their fate. A small contingent of Thebans was also compelled to remain. On that final morning, surrounded on all sides, they did not wait for the end to come to them. They advanced out of the pass into the wider plain to meet the enemy head-on. They fought with a fury born of desperation and absolute courage. Leonidas fell in the heart of the battle. The fight raged on over his body as the surviving Greeks tried to protect their fallen king. Eventually, they were driven back to a small hill within the pass. Their spears were broken, their swords shattered. They fought on with their bare hands and teeth until the last man was cut down by a storm of arrows. The Persians had won the battle. The path to Athens was open, but the cost had been immense, and the sacrifice of Leonidas and his men was not in vain. Their stand bought crucial time for the Greek navy to prepare. Just a short while later, at the Battle of Salamis, the Greeks would win a stunning naval victory that crippled the Persian fleet. The courage shown at Thermopylae had become a rallying cry, a powerful symbol of defiance that inspired all of Greece. A year later, at the Battle of Plataea, the Greek armies, united and inspired, would finally defeat the Persians and end the invasion for good. The last stand at the Hot Gates was the spark that lit the fire of Greek resistance. A monument was later placed at Thermopylae. The inscription, written by the poet Simonides, is simple but incredibly powerful. It reads, "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." This story has survived for thousands of years, not just because it's a great war story, but because it speaks to something deep within us. It's about choosing duty over survival, about standing for something greater than yourself, even when you know it will cost you everything. The stand of the 300 and their brave allies reminds us that the strength of the human spirit can sometimes shine brightest in the face of certain defeat, and that true victory isn't always about winning the battle, but about the legacy you leave behind. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time.